Hey folks, it is Soul with some more Horrific Vision commentary. And for other commentary and guides, check the description below for links to help you where you want to go. Today we're back in Orgrimmar to complete a 5-chest run using 2 masks. Ooh. Let me tell you about the masks that I'm using. The Mask of the Dark Imagination makes an enemy periodically appear when you are below 50% of your total sanity. Compared to other ads inside Visions, this one is mostly a pushover, really, that uses an AoE swirly attack. Just step away from it and you're good. This mask is obtained by completing the Mage Quarter in Stormwind while wearing at least 1 mask. The Mask of the Burned Bridge makes you poop purple stuff while moving. It doesn't matter if you're running, walking, jumping, strafing, moving backwards, feared, or wandering around while you're disoriented, you will poop. The poop lasts for about 6 or 7 seconds before disappearing, and throughout this run, you're going to see many examples of how and how not to poop. To get this mask, complete the Valley of Wisdom area in Orgrimmar while wearing at least 1 mask. As a tank, my approach hasn't changed since we last met, with a focus on self-healing and single-target nukes, while hoping and praying that Twilight Devastation hits its intended targets. Ghastly Goulash is once again my food of choice, although, funny enough, I forgot to eat it until about halfway through the Valley of Spirits, so go me. So let's get this thing started, shall we? So originally I wanted to run with 2 masks, or the original run that I wanted to do was the one where you have double madnesses, but unfortunately that mask drops off of Old Town, and I just don't have that one, so sometime really in the very, very near future, I'm probably going to do a 3-mask run, although it's going to be in Stormwind, but oh well. So this was a little weird. Like I'm going through very quickly, and you can see right behind me, I start laying down some of the purple stuff or the poop. But the way that my movement speed was, I guess because desynchronized really sped me up. It made the separation between each zone kind of bigger than normal, so it's a little bit awkward. So this has been I looked at this a little bit on the PTR. I tested it with a bunch of masks, and I was checking some stuff out, and it was just crazy how like this stuff looked a lot crazier on the PTR. And the void zones are much smaller than they were normally, but there's still a whole lot of control that I lose because I need to start stepping out of the way of pretty much anything. So this can become really troublesome for melee or otherwise, all sorts of situations where you lose control. Like, I'm not kidding about running, walking, whether you're slowed or whether you're disoriented. When you start moving, you start throwing down that poop. But I'm taking the normal route that I've always been taking. Just I'm used to it, and I recommend to anyone, like, if you're used to a certain route and the way certain mobs are, then I would recommend just sticking to that. Don't listen to too many other guides or whatnot, unless you're like really struggling. So this will be the first real test of this affix. Fighting this elite guy over here, because you have to step out of the way of stuff and then step out of the way of stuff again, and you can see me starting to draw my own little prison over here, with my back against the wall and everything, but it's still not so bad. The way that the void zones disappear over time, it just creates a sort of field that it definitely limits your movement and restricts where you want to go. But ultimately, it just like anything else, it just takes some getting used to. And once you're accustomed to it, then you'll have a much easier time navigating your way through stuff. But of course, given the nature of Horrific Visions, and in this case, I'm in the zone where I have to jump around a lot because of enemophobia. And then later on, when I have to deal with, I forget the name of it now, split personality. There we go. So I opted to do a big pull over here. And this is where I run into trouble, not from laying down these void zones, but the huge damage that I take from the mental assaults from these tormentors. It's huge. Like, I'm popping the big cooldowns, I'm popping my lay on hands as well. So this is something that you want to have either a big defensive cooldown for, or if anything, if you want to be more smart about it, you just want to make sure that you're locking down these tormentors or otherwise focusing them down. Doing a big pull like this, it's definitely not recommended for a non-tank or someone that doesn't have either healer or lots of defensive cooldowns. But I would say that at least if you're a DPS class, if you just mow down those tormentors, you can probably handle 2 packs of them, or 2 of them at a time if they're firing stuff off. But of course, try to silence them or kick them as you can. Because you can see the void zones, they weren't like a huge deal. I have plenty of room to move, plenty of space. It's just that the damage that was coming out from those big AoEs, it's difficult to interrupt. It shouldn't have been that difficult for me. I just kind of tried to power my way through, and I was a little cocky. And this is the point here, I believe, where I finally eat my ghastly goulash that I forgot to eat. Even then, though, the damage that I took in this area, it was a lot. Something like ghastly goulash, it would have helped a little bit, but you're better off just being a bit more careful than I was. So here we go for the first big boss area person. And in this case, well, there's that dude that pops up to annoy me a little more, but he's really like nothing. The thing to watch out here for, of course, is laying down the void zone. So it definitely makes my movement feel a little bit more stiff. Luckily, I didn't get hit by anything, and the placement of the golden orbs wasn't so bad. And of course, having Twilight Devastation get a lucky hit in there is, well, that does me a lot of favors throughout this run. So right now everything's cool. I am at a little over half my sanity bar. I'm feeling okay, I think, at this point. But of course I'm going to worry about this particular area, because now I have to also deal with split personality, like right there. I thought I was cool dealing with a horse. And you can see there that I was laying down a whole bunch of poop. And that did happen to eat away at some of my sanity there. You see that now I'm a little bit under half of my total sanity. So I did take a couple of ticks there. So the idea here is to just try to be careful. Try to be careful, especially because of split personality got me again, and there's me laying down the extra poop, taking the extra sanity damage. Now I'm at about 1/3 of my total sanity, so I'm making mistakes. Thankfully, it's forgiving enough that I can kind of still power my way through it. But I definitely lost like a good 100 and some sanity just from making these little mistakes here and there. It definitely pays off to just, well, it would have paid off for me to maybe bubble through and avoid some of that damage, but it's okay. You can see here I even backed into this other pack here. I think it was Gara who was already engaged with these ads over here. Best I can do really is just try to power through, and trying to go around this split personality, I get really close to aggroing another pack, and that might have ruined the run if I had gotten aggro there. But thankfully I have enough time. I get a pretty lucky Twilight Devastation over there to bring this guy's HP down some. Still making mistakes, but I'm just trying to get through so I can get to the end here. I just want to get a little bit of extra time so I can pop my sanity orb a little bit later. And thankfully this gamble paid off. I didn't screw up too much, but I did screw up a couple of times. A little bit more, and does a Twilight, does a TD get off? Doesn't look like it. Nope, doesn't get off. So just gotta carefully wind my way around. It did take a while for me to get those last couple of mobs down, so it doesn't give me a lot of room to take out this last pack before engaging the second elite, and it's not a big deal. Since I'm going to be fighting an elite shortly afterwards, I'll get plenty of the way that my sanity loss will happen, followed by killing the elites, followed by going for the next area boss. It made this not a big deal. So it's not like I have to be super strict with every little movement that I make, because the moment I pop my sanity orb, the clock is pretty much reset, and I can kind of proceed normally. So here's the second test of dealing with this second mask. A TD goes off, thankfully on time. Thank you. And the sleep here. Does anything happen here? Okay, cool. Nothing happens here. Could have swore something terrible happened here, but I guess I was lucky this run. So thankfully, unlike some of my other runs, I was sitting kind of pretty over there. But now for the next area boss. In this case, since I've been learning from previous runs, I decided, hey, you know what? After dodging this defiled ground, I can move pretty far inside the boss, so that way I can almost totally avoid this Ring of Chaos. Of course, you gotta be mindful of these corruption guys. And some of the knockback that they do whenever these things explode, because as you can see there, a knockback into the poop, I get disoriented, and then right there I get hit by a chaos orb. Like, I lose a lot of sanity all of a sudden. So you very much want to be careful when those swirlies appear. That knockback followed by the split personality impact can cause some real trouble, obviously. Of course, that's not something that a lot of DPS can solve. So let's get out of here, and let's go off to the next area. So far I have one orb used. I'm still pretty fresh. I'm back at the beginning, and I'm feeling, like I said before, I'm still feeling pretty confident about this run. As always, skipping treasure chests, because I think I get a little too hyper-focused when I try to do these. I try not to let myself get too distracted. And knowing my luck, something terrible might happen that would prompt me to, that would prompt a ruin run. And that's the last thing that I want. I can definitely tell that that stuff is living like considerably longer. Not all the time am I able to get mobs killed as fast as I'd like to. There are a lot of times these days where I won't be able to get a tentacle killed before it disappears and reappears somewhere else. So here, dealing with this boss, and as well as Poopin, this can cause some issues. It's weird. Like, I'm not able to really experience this mini boss the way that it was intended, because I was feared at the time, so I wasn't really pushed back. But when I know that when I am moving, I am laying stuff down. So the way that it works is that when you're being pushed back, you want to be pushed back, but you want to also sort of strafe to the side too, because you don't want to be laying poop pretty much on yourself. As for going through this hall over here, it's pretty much the same dealy. You just kind of cut through the Dominators, make sure you interrupt the Touch of Abyss, and otherwise progress through and take out the rest of these guys here. Of course, it can become an issue with having to deal with 50% extra life on all of these mobs. These guys are no joke. Even little things like these corruption guys, they start wearing you down if you don't happen to be using Goulash, or if you otherwise just don't have strong AoE skills, let alone a strong corruption trait. Still though, I end up dealing with this pretty much the same way that I always do. It's really going to be it's really going to depend on whether or not I fail a run. That's when I'm going to like really modify what I do. So as usual, take care of the Dominator. Don't let the cast go off. From there, switch to, I switch to the next highest target, which is the named NPC here. Let the other guys get worn down. Hope for a TD proc. Otherwise, focus mostly on the high HP mob. And for those of you who are asking, by the way, since I have time, I don't need to repeat the same thing every time. I'm using nameplate scrolling combat text for those of you who are interested in finding out which add-on that I use for my damage numbers. It's something that a lot of people have asked, and I've answered it in comments, and I put it in video descriptions here and there, but I keep getting that question, so I might as well say it out loud. Maybe that'll be helpful. But anyway, with this guy down, thinking off the top of my head at the time, there wasn't going to be much of a change for this guy, except for the fact that his shield would be a lot harder to whittle down. Fortunately, though, I have some huge procs go off. You saw that 120k Crucible of Flame proc go off. You saw the TD crit as well, and that pretty much knocked off half of his life. So this particular run for this mini boss was absolutely trivial. I destroyed him. You could see that there's a lot of poop that I threw down, and that could have been a very big issue, especially later on when I decide to use more masks. Oh, there's our friend back there. Hi. So obviously I'm at below 70. I'm below 50% sanity. Time to take on Misha and kick her butt. Her butt or his butt? I think it's her butt. Sounds feminine. But I do try to make sure at all times, try to get away from that roar. That can be pretty devastating. And then of course, once this thing is killed, make sure to take care of the scarabs that come out afterwards. Of course, it can be a little bit tough trying to get away from them, especially if they try to explode. You see that TD just took them out really quick before they even tried to explode. But whenever split personality goes off, you really want to make sure that you stay out of their green explosive stuff. So I struggled in this area a lot more than I should have. You saw that just right there, I got knocked back into split personality. I was taking some pretty heavy damage over there, as well as sanity damage too. So this is probably going to be an area that I'll be a lot more careful about, or even consider using an invisibility potion on. So there's our friend back again, but sorry, Twilight Devastation had something to say about it. So I'm starting to run a little bit low, and when I'm here, I could have tried doing some soft pulls on some of these side guys before going for the elite, and I was about to. That TD was about to pull that mob, I swear, but I decided to pull the whole room, or this whole section here, and this turned out to be a lot more messy than it should have been. I tend to struggle with this particular area. I take a lot of extra damage. The boss is able to get off a lot of sanity damage that thankfully I was able to cancel out. But I go as far as bubbling because there was just so much going on, and this is something that ended up... this is a regret. I really want to try to work on getting this area down better, because almost consistently I screw up here. I do bad. So I think in the future I'm just going to try and do slower pulls, because I do have a little bit of time. Pulling one extra pack before this elite is probably going to be a good idea. Part of the problem is having to run close to these corpses and having them spawn more. But of course, I think I feel frazzled here, because I'm even getting disoriented off of like nothing. Once again, underlining how poorly I did this area. I'm getting knocked back into stuff when I really should have my back against the slope, so that when the knockback happens, I don't get flown down like I am right here again, just like the last run. Not really learned from my mistakes here, unfortunately. But we're still okay. Despite all the mistakes that I made here, we're still doing okay. Just gotta go around this. So now I have to deal with Rexxar without any immunities, I mean, I could use my sanity orb, but there's really no point. So I decided to kind of take a risk, and instead of working on just burning down Rexxar, I decided to take down boars as I saw them. So I'd switch directly to boars. I would use my interrupts, I would use my shield to avoid the cast. But of course, as the fight goes on, more boars come out, and they come out at a faster pace. So you want to be very careful and consider popping cooldowns maybe mid-fight, so that way you can either burn down Rexxar quickly or be able to burn down the boars quickly. As you can see there, though, my TD went off, and I was able to take out 3 boars at once, and that pretty much wrote the rest of the fight. So I just got lucky in that case. If it wasn't for that, I probably would be at, a little bit less than half my sanity if that TD didn't go off. So things like Twilight Devastation and corruption effects, they do have a very noticeable impact on your play. But I do also firmly believe that with smart play, you can overcome that as well. I probably wouldn't have a, like, for example, if I didn't have TD and I was rocking either the nerfed version of Echoing Void or something else, or even nothing, I probably wouldn't have any sanity orbs left, but I think I would still be in an okay spot to clear a 5 chest with 2 masks. At any rate, though, I got what I got, and here we are about to encounter Thrall, throw down the orb, and then we go to town. So unlike Rexxar, who I really didn't have to deal with the poop at all. This is a cluster. This got really messy really fast. I'm making mistakes again. I'm focusing on Thrall. I should be focusing on the boars, and I shouldn't have enough. So I'm moving around like a crazy person for Thrall's moves, and I'm just laying down tons of poop. It also didn't help that his shockwave, I kind of let it just cut through half the room, like right there, and that gave me that much less room to really move around. And then, of course, having to deal with the extra HP means that whenever he has his shield up, that means there's more shield to burn through, which means that in this case there is almost inevitable sanity damage that I'm going to be taking, unless I have some insane tank DPS and I'm able to burn through the shield very quickly. So using 4 or 5 masks is going to be like devastating here when fighting this or similar bosses where there is almost unavoidable sanity damage. So that right there, I even got clipped by his shockwave itself. So as you can see, this was pretty messy. I ended up using about 1/3 of my sanity bar. If I was doing this with 5 masks, I would have failed it because of the increased sanity damage, because of the decreased sanity that I have. This was a pretty rough run, but it was pretty successful at the same time. So I hope you enjoyed this run. I'm going to have the loot in just a little bit, but of course, please feel free to take a look at the description below for some of the other Horrific Vision runs that I've done, as well as the dummy series and guides. And that's going to be it for me. So you guys have a good one. Stay tuned for the loot, and otherwise I'll see you for the next thing that I do. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy. All right, here we go, friends. It's time for the big money. Are we ready? Are we ready? Big money. Malignant, non-corrupted, fuck you, shit. Ah! Back to world quests for me. See, 455s. No sockets. Crit haste. I'm good. Fuck.